The road of heads. The Euphrates marshes stank of rot horse blood and the copper tang of fear. Cynaine tasted all three on the back of her tongue as she stepped from the stolen skiff, her boots sinking into the grasping mud. 20 Illyrian wolf brothers followed, black cloaks snapping like raven wings in the pestilential air, Romphea slung across backs ridged with old scars. The mule led by her youngest brother bore a coarse sack, still flat, stenciled in faded charcoal, for the king. She felt the oath in her gut like a cold blade lodged beneath her ribs. Alexander had died 3 moons past, fevered and raving in his silks, whispering through cracked lips. Bring me the head of the man who would wear my skin. Seleucus Nicator, the victor, now sat in Babylon, the veil of Ares, the artifact of Alexander's own stolen godhood, chained above his throne. Doubt gnawed, 20 against an empire. It was madness. Then the old mountain fire rose, hot and certain. She was half wild, daughter of Audata, legends claimed, had eaten the hearts of Thracian chieftains. Steel would answer where reason failed. She touched the falx at her hip, Illyrian curve, soul hungry, and started walking toward the lights of the first outpost. 1. The reed maze, knee-deep in black, sucking water. Reeds taller than a man, their edges sharp as filed bone. Mist clung like wet wool, muffling sound, creating ghosts. The first arrow took a reaver through the throat with a wet thwack. He gurgled a sound of profound surprise and sank. Cynaine dropped flat, water closed over her braid, cold as a crypt. Her heart hammered, too soon, too many, then slowed to the cold, steady rhythm of the hunt. She forced her lungs to stillness, counting. 1, 2. They fight like Persians, loud, wasteful, and terrified of the dark. She used the reeds, slipped between them belly to mud, breath shallow, pulse a drum only she could hear. A skiff pulled close. She smelled horse sweat, cheap wine, and the acidic spike of fear. She rose beneath the gunwale, a shadow detaching from other shadows, Sika punching up under the archer's ribs. Hot blood sheeted her forearm. She shoved the dying man back as a shield, rocking the boat, and used the chaos to vault into the next craft, falx already singing. The curve bit gunwale, then neck. A second archer fumbled for his dagger. She hooked his ankle with the falx, yanked him into the water, held him under until the frantic bubbles stopped. When the mist burned off with the sickly dawn, 7 reavers floated face down among the lotuses. Cynaine wiped her blade on a corpse's tunic and, with methodical sawing strokes, took the captain's head. The sack accepted it with a wet, heavy thud. 1. Lesson. Strike from the blind spot. Let the terrain be your shield. 2. The salt death. The flats glared white as bleached bone, a mirror reflecting the cruelty of the sun. Heat devils danced. The air tasted of salt and scorched iron. The ground was cracked porcelain, sharp underfoot. 50 cataphracts thundered from the shimmer, a rolling earthquake of bronze and horseflesh. Lances lowered, horses armored in scales that flashed like a river of fish. The reavers locked shields, Romphea angled to receive. Cynaine felt the tremor through the ground, felt it in her teeth. This was not a skirmish, this was an anvil. Their charge will break us. We break them instead. She bellowed the Illyrian wedge cry, a raw, hacking sound that tore at her own throat. The line surged not forward, but sideways along a cracked ridge of salt. The cataphracts, committed to their thunder, overshot. Lances stabbed empty air. Reavers pivoted. Great swords rose and fell in perfect, brutal rhythm. Horses screamed as hamstrings were severed. Riders toppled, their armor a death sentence. Cynaine vaulted a fallen condos, landed on a lancer's crupper. The horse bucked. She hooked the rider's helm rim with a falx, wrenched. Neck snapped like green wood. She rode the corpse down, rolled clear as another lance struck sparks from the salt, and came up inside the second rank. A lance point grazed her cheek, a line of fire, then blood. A fraction closer and my quest ends here, food for salt crows. Doubt flashed. She discarded the fear. It was useless. She calculated, groin, throat, eyes. Ka found groin, falx found throat. The last rider charged. She dropped, rolled beneath the horse, slashed both hamstrings. The beast crashed, pinning its rider. She took the head. 6 more reavers were gone. 6 brothers swallowed by the salt. The sack dripped darker. She did not look at the faces of her dead. 7. Lesson. Use momentum against itself. Turn their strength to wreckage. 3. The Lion Avenue. Babylon's processional way, colossal lions of glazed brick now toppled, gold leaf peeling from their flanks like scabs. A miasma of sulfur and old dust hung in the air. Cush the flayed waited beneath a broken gate. He was a thing of anatomy charts, literally skinless, his muscles and veins pulsing with a sick molten light. Around him 100 skeletons in gilded bronze, the shades of the city's first defenders, marched in perfect, silent lockstep, pikes leveled. The Reavers hesitated. Sinane tasted fear, hers and theirs, sharp as iron. It was the wrong kind of fear, not of steel, but of the unnatural. This she could not fight with muscle alone. They are already dead. We are not. They are puppets. Find the strings. She hurled a torch. Pitch flared, bones blackened, but kept coming. She laughed a short, savage bark. She led the charge straight at the pike wall. At the last instant she dropped, slid on her knees across marble slick with old blood. Pikes passed overhead with a unified sheeing. She was inside the square. Falks whirled. Ribs cracked like dry reeds. A skeleton's pike grazed her shoulder, a fleshless cold that burned, then numbed. She spun, hooked the shaft, yanked the skeleton close, and drove her Sika through its eye socket. Kush flung a whip of articulated bone. It wrapped her ankle, yanked. She fell, rolled, came up with the Sika buried in the necromancer's thigh. Black ichor hissed like water on a forge. Kush shrieked. The skeletons faltered, their movements becoming jerky, uncertain. She used the moment, leapt, seized the pole bearing Alexander's mummified hand, the artifact powering the ritual, and smashed it across her knee. The hand shattered, the dead phalanx collapsed in a golden, clattering avalanche. Kush lunged. She met him blade to claw, steel singing on bone. Doubt flashed. He will not die, then calculation. He bleeds. She fainted high, kicked low, took his legs. As he fell, she drove the falx down through the roof of his mouth, pinning him to the marble. The body twitched, and the molten light in its veins guttered and went out. 5 Reavers remained. She took Cush's head. 12 lesson. Break the puppet master, the puppets fall. 4. The endless stare. The Edamananki rose black against the storm, a man-made mountain, each step wide enough for 10 men abreast. It was a ladder to the angry gods. Lightning crawled across the sky like white, skeletal serpents. Halfway up, Pyrrhus the war elephant barred the way, bronze tusks, howdah bristling with veiled guards. 20 black iron Ceresas thrust down the stair in a phalanx of death. The Reavers looked at Sinane. She saw their exhaustion, their pride. They were mountains, and this was the wave that would finally break them. They will die here, so be it. They will die Illyrian. She gave the boar cry. The 5 charged into the thicket of iron. Ceresas dipped rose red. 2 Reavers fell at once. The elephant trumpeted, its trunk sweeping like a mace, sending one man cartwheeling into the storm-lashed void. Sinane used the chaos. She ran up the Ceresas themselves, her boots finding the shaft's balance perfect. At the apex she vaulted, landed on Pyrrhus' neck. The Mahout stabbed. She caught the blade between falx and Sika, twisted, and sent the man tumbling into the dark. The elephant bucked. She clung, falx biting deep behind the ear. Hot blood sheeted her arms. Pyrrhus screamed, reared, and in its death agony, crushed the last 2 Reavers against the ziggurat wall. A wet final sound of splintering bone and armor. Silence, save for the thunder and the gurgling breath of the dying beast. Sinane slid down the elephant's flank, falx dragging. The sack was heavy now, grotesquely full. 17. Lesson. Ride the monster. Become the storm. 5. The roof of heaven. Wind howled across the summit. It was a flat, empty place, closer to the stars than to the earth. The veil of Ares hung in the center, not from chains of metal, but chains of crimson lightning, pulsing like a monstrous heart. Seleucus Nicator stood beneath it, golden scale armor gleaming, a ruby-tipped Ceresa grounded at his side. He was alone. Sinane stepped onto the platform, the last of her bloodline. Rain hissed on hot bronze. Seleucus smiled. It was the smile of a man who owned the world. You bring me my empire in a sack, little sister? She answered by attacking. Ceresa thrust faster than thought. She parried with the falx, felt the shock rattle her spine. Again. Each block was slower, heavier. Doubt clawed. He trained with Alexander. I only watched. She changed rhythm. Dropped low, swept the Ceresa wide with her blade, and came inside his guard. Sika slashed for the eyes. Seleucus twisted. The blade scored his cheek. Blood, real blood. He laughed, swung the Ceresa's weighted butt spike. It caught her ribs. Something cracked. Pain flared white. She spat blood, grinned. You bleed like any other pig, she hissed. She hurled the Sika. It buried itself in his thigh. He roared, yanked it free, and charged, all pretense of defense gone. She met him falx to Ceresa, steel screaming. Sparks lit the storm. Lightning struck the veil. Power surged. Seleucus reached for it, his eyes wide with divine hunger. Sinane leapt. Falks descending in a two-handed arc, the blade met the artifact first, shattered it like obsidian. A silent scream of ruptured power. Daemon fire exploded outward. She opened herself to it. Braced for death, she found only clarity. The storm poured into her veins, ice, fire, centuries of Illyrian war cries. Her eyes blazed crimson. Strength beyond muscle flooded her limbs. She did not feel the wind. She did not feel the rain. She only saw the target. Seleucus struck again. She caught the Sarissa barehanded, snapped the shaft, grabbed his throat, lifted him until his boots kicked empty air. His arrogance dissolved into raw animal panic. Her mind was a silent predator's calculus. Pulse in the neck, weight distribution, wind direction. The rage was gone, replaced by a cold, perfect certainty. The mountain fire had consumed the doubt. "For Alexander," she whispered, and took his head with a single clean stroke. The storm died. Cynaine descended the ziggurat step by step, sack dragging behind her, leaving a trail of blood and rain. At the base, the funeral pyre waited, Alexander's empty armor polished and placed on the bier. She laid Seleucus' head at its feet. "Debt paid, brother." She struck flint. Flames leapt high, painting the night gold, consuming the last vestiges of an age. In the cooling ashes, a single black rose bloomed, its thorns already wet with dew or blood. She shouldered the falx and walked west, away from empires and into legend.